views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Phi Labs or the Archway Protocol. The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Archway podcast. I'm your host, Valeria Salazar, and today we have Aidan Salzmann on, joining us from Stride. Welcome, Aidan.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm super happy to be here.
Yeah, of course. So do you want to give us a little bit of your background?
Sure. So, hi, I'm Aidan. I'm a co-founder of Stride. We do liquid staking for the Cosmos ecosystem. A little bit about me. I grew up all around the world, so I have sort of a global view, and I think that is sort of also how I got into blockchains. Like some of the core use cases, like cross-border payments and things like that, always like kind of, excuse me, intuitively made sense to me. I ended up going to UC Berkeley for school, and I met Riley, one of my co-founders there. We studied computer science, and we had a lot of overlap with various blockchain people at Berkeley. So there's a really big presence of blockchain people at Berkeley. There's this club, Blockchain at Berkeley, and like some of the Osmosis team came out of there. I think part of the Anoma team might have also worked in blockchain at Berkeley. So there's lots of roots. I was never directly involved in blockchain at Berkeley, but I was always sort of very interested in it and very interested in startups. So I ended up joining a non-blockchain related startup out of school. I worked there as a software engineer for about 2 years. And then in 2020, I saw sort of DeFi start to happen. So I saw Uniswap and SushiSwap play out. So SushiSwap had like vampire attacked Uniswap. And it was the first time that crypto like really clicked for me. This like DeFi use case made a lot of sense. And I started like comparing DeFi products to normal products. So I was looking specifically at Uniswap versus Coinbase. And one of the things that really blew my mind or kind of made me go down this rabbit hole was Uniswap had something like 500 lines of code. And I think like 5 employees. So very small team, but they were processing like a similar amount of volume as Coinbase. And Coinbase had like millions of lines of code and this massive team. And that kind of like blew my mind. So I started going down the crypto rabbit hole and got very hooked. And then from there, I made my way into Cosmos, but that's a little bit of background about me.
Very nice, very nice. So how did you end up in the Cosmos? Do you want to go into that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I was sort of looking at like lots of different crypto ecosystems. And I think crypto was one of the sort of tech magic moments for me in the last, or I guess in my lifetime. I think everyone has a few, but for me, crypto was one of those. And I was really interested in thinking about scaling blockchains to the entire world and looking at other ecosystems like Ethereum, Solana. They all have these visions for scalability. But I think Cosmos has the clearest vision. So coming from an engineering background, like this idea of scaling blockchains horizontally and just adding more chains when you have more demand made a lot of sense to me. So that was part of what attracted me to Cosmos. But the other really cool thing about Cosmos was just the builder vibe. And it's a little bit hard to quantify, but just talking to people in the space, there's so many like really cool people working in Cosmos that it's hard not to be attracted to the ecosystem, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just at a Cosmos meetup last night, and some people that were coming into it as like newbies were definitely saying like this is one of the more technical ecosystems, but it definitely has a lot of potential. So do you want to tell us a little bit about how Stride came to be, where you found the inspiration, how you met the team and everything?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I met Riley in undergrad at UC Berkeley. We were project partners throughout. So we had done a lot of computer science work together, nothing in blockchain specifically, but we already knew each other pretty well. And Vishal, I met through Riley. So I ended up, as I said, going the software route after school. Riley went to a big hedge fund where he was doing crypto research. And Vishal worked on some crypto projects and some traditional finance things. And I think at around the same time, we all got sort of disillusioned with our other jobs and very interested in crypto. So we were talking about all of these different things that we could work on. And Cosmos seemed like I said, one of the most interesting ecosystems to be in. And we were looking at Cosmos, and because we had sort of this mix of software and traditional finance backgrounds, we were thinking that it made a lot of sense to sort of go this like DeFi direction and build a DeFi project. But we were looking at the yields in Cosmos, and the yields in Cosmos were so high that it was actually really hard to build DeFi. So on Ethereum, there's like all of these tokens. Most of them don't earn yield, so you can use them in DeFi really easily. In Cosmos, this was not the case because the DeFi projects had to compete with these really high yields. So it was actually hard for us to think of a DeFi project that we could build that would sort of work because we couldn't compete with these really high yields. And that sort of led us to liquid staking.
So no, that's really great. And so can you tell us a little bit about how Stride is different to other liquid staking protocols in Cosmos?
So maybe a little bit about liquid staking more broadly. Part of the value proposition of liquid staking is that users today have to make a trade-off between staking their tokens and earning yield that way, or using their tokens in DeFi, but they can't do both. And as a user, this is a pretty painful yield trade-off because like DeFi is really interesting and you probably want to go try different products, but it's just so expensive because you lose so much yield. So this is the core idea of liquid staking. It's that you can do both. You can stake your tokens and you can use them in DeFi at the same time. So that's sort of the core idea behind it. And then in terms of how we differ from other liquid staking protocols, I think the main difference is Stride is very minimal and we're very app chain first. So I think there are many differences between all of them and there's lots of liquid staking protocols at this point. But I think the biggest difference is Stride is very focused at just doing one thing really well. So we just want to focus on liquid staking and servicing the rest of the Cosmos ecosystem. And we don't want to really like attract projects to build on top of Stride and form a DeFi hub because we really believe in this app chain vision. So we think each project should do their own thing really well. And we think that's the best way to scale Cosmos more broadly. So by enabling other projects to do that, by just providing this very simple service for them, liquid staking, we think that's sort of the best way to scale the Cosmos and to enable other teams. And conversely, we really appreciate what other projects have built. For example, Osmosis is just like a very good DEX, and we really appreciate that service that they provide. So we hope other projects also appreciate sort of the service that we provide them, and we don't really want to compete with these other projects.
Yeah, absolutely. And so far, what chains do you guys have onboarded that you offer liquid staking for?
Yeah, so far we have the Cosmos Hub, we have Osmosis, and Juno and Stargaze. So we have 4 so far. We're going to be adding Luna, Evmos, and Injective very soon, and then hopefully like a long tail of other chains. Part of the reason that we're not doing this super quickly is the technology that we're using, interchain accounts and IBC, is just very new. So there's all kinds of bugs and things that we're working through as we deploy this. So we wanted to kind of get the first few chains right and then scale up really quickly from there.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a great game plan. And so speaking of game plans, you guys recently passed a signaling proposal for your roadmap for 2023. So do you want to walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. At a high level, for the first half of 2023, we're very focused on safety, governance, UX, and data transparency. So I can kind of walk through the high level of why we're focused on each of these one by one. So on safety, I think most people would agree that it is very important that liquid staking derivatives are very safe. And the reason is because they can get very big because liquid staking has such strong product market fit. So we've already sort of seen this play out on Ethereum, where Lido has become a very large staker of ETH. And some people are worried about things like systemic risks. And I think Lido is actually very safe, and I don't expect this to happen. But any large liquid staking protocol that if they suffered a hack, it would be really, really bad for the ecosystem overall. And I think Stride is already very safe, and we've already focused on safety quite a bit, but we just want to take it to the next level and make it even more safe to use. Governance is, I think, a little bit unique in Cosmos. As I'm sure you've seen, people are very passionate about governance in the Cosmos ecosystem. So we're working on some features there to allow people to both vote and liquid stake at the same time. In terms of user experience, one thing that I think Cosmos lacks a little bit is a very smooth user experience. So when you go to other blockchains, it's just like one blockchain, you have your one wallet, it's very easy. With Cosmos, there's like all these different chains and it's like kind of confusing. You have to bridge your tokens, and like if you bridge them in like the wrong direction, like your tokens like aren't fungible. So there's all these complexities. So we're thinking about how we can make using Stride feel more like using a monolithic chain. And data transparency is, we just want to make Stride more transparent. There's a lot of things that are happening on the back end right now that are not well understood. So we just want to bring those to the surface and show them to our community so that everyone sort of understands and can trust how Stride's operating on the back end.
Yeah, no, that sounds fantastic. And so do you want to expand a little bit more about how you guys are working on governance?
Yeah, definitely. So we have sort of 3 versions of governance. First version, which is called planetary governance. And the idea behind planetary governance, this is actually, I think, the most simple version, but maybe the most, the least useful to people. So the idea behind planetary governance is if you're holding your ST tokens on Stride, so say you're holding ST Atom on Stride, you'll be able to vote on any governance proposal on the Cosmos Hub. And the idea is we just take whatever proposal is on the Cosmos Hub and we mirror it on Stride. And then if you're holding ST Atom, you lock up your tokens and you can vote. The problem is most people don't hold their tokens on Stride for good reason. They want to go and like use them in DeFi. But this is sort of the V1 and it's the easiest thing to build. And the later forms of governance rely on this. So this is the first version of interchain governance or liquid governance that we're building. The second version is, we're calling it galactic liquid governance. So this is like, it's not planetary, it's a little bit further out. This one is just focused on the osmosis pools. And the reason is right now, we've looked at our distribution of Stride tokens and something like 90% are in the osmosis pools because it's the main use case for SC tokens right now. So if you're an ST Atom holder, there's like a 90% chance that you're in the ST Atom atom pool on osmosis. And we think this is probably always going to be the case. The percentages will change, but hopefully the pool always has lots of liquidity. And the reason is, I think all of the other DeFi integrations like lending, borrowing, all these things, they're built on top of the pool. So for our V2 of governance, we're going to allow users that are locked up in liquidity pools on osmosis vote. So we have this sort of scoped out, but it's a little bit further out. And then the final version we're calling cosmic liquid governance. And the idea here is that you can vote from anywhere in Cosmos. So if you go to like Umi and use their lending protocol, if you go to Terra, if you go to Osmosis, any of these chains, you'll be able to interact with the platform on that chain with ST tokens and vote. This one requires a little bit more research from our end. The main challenge is we need to have tokens locked up for the voting period. So there's like a few different ways that we're thinking about how to do this technically, but it's a bit of a research project for the first half of the year.
Okay, so do you have like target dates for when these features are going to be released?
I think planetary governance will be out within the next couple of months. So we're working on it right now. And I'm optimistic, but I don't want to commit to anything because dev timelines always get pushed back. And then the other 2 forms are much harder to say. So galactic liquid governance, probably first half of this year, but it's really hard to say. It depends on, whenever you do interchain development, there's like so many dependencies. Like as soon as we start relying on osmosis, like it just opens this like can of worms where lots of things could potentially break. And then cosmic liquid governance, I would expect some kind of research plan at the end of maybe like June. But in terms of implementation, it's a bit harder to say. Hopefully this year is what I'm optimistic for.
Yeah, cross your fingers. No, but I love the names. So that's very cool. And in terms of other use cases for ST tokens, what else can you do with ST tokens besides osmosis pools?
Yeah, that is a great question. And I think this is like the big question for 2023. We're talking to like 10 different protocols right now, and they're all just coming online. And we're trying to get ST tokens integrated into all of them. So we'd like for ST tokens to be the base asset of Cosmos DeFi. A few that I can name. So you can actually go to DMEX right now, and you can lend and borrow against ST Atom. So one use case right here is recursive staking. So the basic idea is you post some ST Atom as collateral, you borrow Atom against it, mint more ST Atom, post it as collateral, and you do this loop a bunch of times. And you actually get leverage on your staking yield. So it's kind of like an interesting leverage use case. And the risk of liquidation is also quite low because ST Atom and Atom shouldn't really depeg if the pools are liquid enough. So that's one big one. Another really big one is IST. So IST is Agoric's or the stablecoin built on Agoric. It's an over-collateralized stablecoin. I think ST Atom is going to be a big form of collateral for IST. And the reason is that if you lock up Atom as collateral and mint IST against it, you're just, again, it's like the core liquid staking use case, you're just losing yield. You're losing like your 20% Atom yield. Whereas if you lock up ST Atom, you earn that yield and you have your stablecoin. So this is another big one. One that we are starting to think about, which I think is pretty interesting, is Alliance. So Alliance is Terra's take on interchain security. And the basic idea with Alliance is you can take a staking derivative and stake it on another chain in order to earn yield in that chain's base currency. So for example, if some random chain was an Alliance chain that was not Stride, and it was in the Terra Luna ecosystem, you could actually take ST Luna from Stride and you could stake it on this chain to earn yields in that chain. So I think this is another pretty interesting use case that less people in Cosmos have heard about, especially after the Terra Luna crash. I think people kind of got out of that ecosystem, but there are still some sort of interesting things going on there. And I think Alliance could actually be pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, Luna's making a comeback. It's about to be listed on Kajira again. So we'll see how that goes. So,
oh, wow. I didn't know that. That is, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's a proposal on it right now. But yeah, that's really cool. And so the research initiatives that you mentioned in the roadmap, do you want to walk us through those?
Yeah, definitely. So we listed a bunch. I'll stick to just a couple that I think are the most interesting. So one really interesting one, we're calling the bonded liquidity market. These names are a little bit TBD. I think we need much better names. If anyone has good names on Twitter, please add us. So the bonded liquidity market or instant redemptions, the idea is here that there's some inflows of Atom to the Stride protocol every day. When people mint ST Atom, their Atom flows into the Stride protocol and it sits in a module account for something like 6 hours before we reinvest it. So there's just Atom sitting idle that's unstaked. And on the other side, there are people that are burning ST Atom in order to withdraw Atom from the protocol. And typically these people have to wait 21 days. And the reason is they have to flow through the standard unbonding flow. But actually you could match these deposits and withdrawals. So the idea is you would take a depositor, say they deposit like 1 Atom, and you could take someone that's withdrawing 1 Atom and you could just match them instantly. So the 1 Atom that's deposited, you never stake it. And the 1 Atom that's being withdrawn is processed instantly. And you actually don't like change any of the stake balances. You just match these depositors and withdrawers. So this is one thing we're working on. There are some sort of novel ways that we're thinking about how to increase the amount of Atom that's sitting idle in the protocol. So we're researching that as well. Another one that we are thinking about is we're calling it protocol-owned arbitrage. So with Stride, I think the health of the pool is what drives how successful Stride is. And the reason is all of these other Stride integrations, they rely on the health of the osmosis pools or the deepest liquidity pools. Because if the token's depeg, it can have pretty bad consequences on our integrations. So for example, if you're borrowing against ST-Atom and the price of Atom tanks, you might get liquidated, even though like the price of Atom hasn't tanked, just the price of ST-Atom has tanked. So you really want very deep liquidity and stable pools. And one way to increase the stability of the peg is to have the protocol arb the pool. So the idea is like whenever ST-Atom depeg, so ST-Atom becomes cheap, typically arbitrageurs will come in and they'll buy the cheap ST-Atom, but sometimes there might not be enough demand for the ST-Atom. And one thing that we're thinking about is, well, if the Stride protocol just held a pool of Atom, it could always go in and buy the cheap ST-Atom and then unbond the ST-Atom. And at the end of that cycle, the pool that the Stride protocol holds would actually have grown. So it's sort of like a virtuous cycle where the pool grows, Stride arbs the pool grows more, and it's like sort of this virtuous cycle that we could kick off. Yeah, those are two of the big ones. The other one that we're thinking about, which is a little bit further out, is how we can bring ST tokens outside of the Cosmos. This one is pretty open-ended, but we're thinking a lot about that as well.
No, that sounds really exciting. And yeah, I think that those are things that other protocols have not started exploring yet. So good on you guys. And then to touch on ICS, so you guys are supposed to be the first consumer chain for ICS. So can you walk us through that thought process and what really like appealed to you guys about ICS?
Yeah. So with ICS, I think there are two main components. So one component is economic security, and the other component is economic alignment. And I think people mostly focus on economic security, on Twitter at least, when this is talked about, and they really underestimate the economic alignment component of this. So there's sort of three flavors of interchain mesh security that I know of today. There's interchain security v1 from the Cosmos Hub. There is mesh security from Osmosis and Juno. And then there's this alliance module from Terra. And they're all different takes on the same thing, which is you want to increase the economic security of small chains in Cosmos, and you want to increase the economic alignment of these chains. And I think they all have sort of pros and cons. For most chains, I think they'll actually care more about economic alignment than economic security. But for liquid staking providers in particular, economic security, I think, is much more important than for the average chain. And the reason is liquid staking providers can control very large amounts of stake and have a low market cap. So for example, if Stride controlled like $100 million of Atom, but the market cap of the Stride token was only $1 million, an attacker might be able to come in and buy up all of the Stride market cap and then unbond that $100 million of Atom and steal it. So this is like a very scary scenario that people have thought about. And with interchain security, this problem just goes away because Stride would inherit the economic security of the Cosmos Hub. So I think the economic security of the Cosmos Hub is something like $800 million or something, but it's like much larger and much harder to attack.
Absolutely. And so what are your thoughts on the third-party audit that's going around now in a proposal for the hub?
Yeah, I actually haven't heard of this. Can you catch me up to date?
Sure. So right now there is either a proposal that's live or a draft proposal. I'm not really sure. But basically people are asking to have a third-party audit take a look at ICS. Now, the problem with this is that there aren't many security firms that are super specialized in it. So people aren't sure if we should be using community funds to really take a, look at this. But right now it's only been audited by internal Cosmos folk, which are probably the best suited to do that. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So my guess is it was audited by Informal Systems. And I think, in my opinion, Informal is the best auditor in Cosmos. We've gotten a few audits from them, and they're really good. So if they've been audited by Informal, I don't know if it makes a ton of sense to do another audit. On the other hand, it's such a key piece of infrastructure that maybe you just like want more audits. And yeah, I actually don't know what the size of the community pool is on the Cosmos Hub, but it seems like the kind of thing that you would probably want to get audited, and probably a good use of community funds. So I don't know. I'd probably be for it, but I have a very uninformed opinion right now.
No, that's completely fine. And so you recently released more information on your tokenomics and kind of like an update. Do you maybe want to walk everyone through that?
Yes. So main change to our tokenomics was a community member put up a proposal on Stride, which takes the protocol revenue and it directs it back to stakers. So it's actually an interesting case of the Stride token holders exercising their rights over the protocol revenue. So when we designed Stride, we designed it with a 10% fee. So the way that fees work is when you stake your tokens with Stride, you don't lose anything to fees initially. But when you earn yield, Stride takes a 10% cut of the additional yield that you earn. So if you would have earned, like, say, 20% yield in a year staking Atom or liquid staking Atom, with Stride fees, you'd only earn 18%. Now, Stride auto compounds tokens, so the fee is actually a little bit less than 2% effectively, because the auto compounding cancels out some of the fee. But we designed Stride with this 10% fee, and we left it up to governance to decide what to do with this fee. So right now, it's actually just being sent to like a random address on the protocol, and it's just accruing in this protocol address. It's a little bit useless. And now the Stride token holders have voted to send this revenue back to stakers. So the way this will work is, in the future, if you're staking Stride tokens, you'll earn yield in all of the zones that Stride supports. So today, that is Osmo, Juno, Stars, and Atom. So if you stake one Stride token, you'll start to see all of those tokens flow into your account. But in the future, it could be like 50 different chains. So it's kind of this interesting mechanism where if you stake a Stride token, you start earning yield from all of the different Cosmos chains. So that'll be going live pretty soon. The rest of the changes were mostly just to bring the Stride implementation in line with what we had initially described. So for example, insiders, like the team, investors, et cetera, are barred from staking rewards. So when we stake our tokens, we don't earn any staking rewards. This hasn't been implemented yet because it's pretty tricky. So this is like another thing that we're doing. And once we implement this, the staking rewards for normal stakers will go way up. I think it's like 5% right now, but it'll go up to like 50 or 60% or something like that.
Wow, very cool. No, and that sounds like great alignment for the community and ST state and Stride token holders. Just because, like, if you come in and you stake Atom and you're earning revenue and you're staking Stride tokens, then you're becoming a part of all of these other communities automatically, which just sounds like a positive sum loop. So that's really interesting. Okay, cool. So do you have anything else you want to share with everyone? Maybe some final action items or information that you want to share?
Yeah, let's see. We are launching ST Luna and ST Evmos in the next couple of weeks. So I would encourage everyone to go and try those out. Beyond that, nothing for me. Thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a good one.